In MoneyWatch, the price of cryptocurrencies took a dive recently, with Bitcoin leading in the declines. Investors had flocked to crypto after wild swings in markets worldwide, but the price of Bitcoin tumbled on Wednesday, falling as low as $30,000. That's less than half of what it was worth at its all-time high in April, when the digital currency soared to over $63,000. CBS News MoneyWatch senior reporter Stephen Gandel joins us now to discuss. Stephen, good to see you. For those who may not know exactly,
nice to be with you again.
Yeah, for those who may not know exactly what Bitcoin is and how it works, break it down.
Well, you have to think of it as a big database, right? And it's a limited size, but it's big. And what this database is it's different numbers in the database represent exact transactions, exact Bitcoins and exact transactions. And as this database fills up, it gets harder to make a new transaction, to make a new Bitcoin. And so the nice thing about this is that everything can be tracked. Everything's on this database that is open, but no one, other than making a Bitcoin transaction, no one can change it. And that's the crypto, the encrypted part of it, right? But also, there's a limited amount of space. So you can only create a certain amount of Bitcoins. And as this thing fills up, it's harder and harder to fill it up. And so people have to spend more and more money to mine these things. And so that's what people like: completely traceable and a limited supply.
All right. So in April, Bitcoin saw its peak. It was up to 63,000. People were like thinking it was going to go all the way to like 100,000. I heard all these outrageous numbers. And then now recently it took this massive tumble. I did not see it dip down to 30,000. I imagine a lot of people were having heart attacks, but now it's hovering around 41,000. I think that's where it's actually been for the past several weeks. What on earth is causing this fluctuation?
And just let me take a step back, and I should say that just to be clear, that those numbers and those transactions, this is a currency that allows you to buy and sell things with it and track the transactions. But so, Anne-Marie, what I have to tell you, I have bad news. Number one, there's two things. And number one is Elon Musk. He's a big supporter has been a big supporter of crypto and of Bitcoin. And he's backed away from that. He made some comments, said he thinks it's maybe overpriced. And so that was one of the drivers. The second driver is that there's been increased regulation. A lot of countries have talked about that they may look to crack down a little more. Just this week, China has reiterated its ban on cryptos. It said that on Bitcoin specifically, it said that banks in China will not be allowed to facilitate transactions in Bitcoin. And in the U.S., the Treasury Department made an announcement that all businesses that process a transaction in Bitcoin of more than $10,000, they're going to have to report those transactions back to the Treasury Department. They're looking to see if there's any tax cheats trying to use Bitcoin. And also the SEC's new chairman, Gary Gensler, he said that he thinks there should be more protections in the Bitcoin market to make it fair for all investors. And so that is kind of spooking people, because that's kind of an unknown and what happens to this market.
So not only did some Wall Street investors get behind Bitcoin, but it's also been popular on Main Street. What long-term effects will this drop in value have on the wealthy, but more importantly on average Americans who took a gamble?
Well, I think, for someone who's made a lot of money or has a lot of money in Bitcoin, it's a big deal. But for the economy or for investors, the market, it's not that big, right? All of Bitcoin, the total value of Bitcoin, which is the largest and most popular of the cryptocurrencies, that's $1 trillion, which is unfathomably large for someone like me or someone else who's watched this thing grow and from almost nothing to what seems like almost a real currency. It won't matter that much for the economy. It's $1 trillion. The stock market is 25 trillion. The net worth of everyone's house is 11 trillion. It's a relatively small market in terms of Americans' overall wealth. But for the currency itself, it could be a really big deal. I mean, people really thought as the price of Bitcoin got higher and higher, and as we heard about more and more retailers and Amex and Wall Street banks in general embracing it, there was this feeling that it was inevitable, that Bitcoin was going to inevitably grow and be something that more people use. But the more the price of Bitcoin jumps up and goes down, it's going to make people scared to use it. Currencies need to be stable, right? You can't have something that loses $10,000 overnight and think, oh, I want to keep my cash in that.
And you mentioned Elon Musk, but I think what's particularly scary about Bitcoin and whatever direction Bitcoin goes in, a lot of these other cryptocurrencies tend to follow, is that sort of a random comment by Elon Musk can create chaos in this market. Now, he did say that Tesla, his company, was going to accept Bitcoin, and then he backtracked on that, and that is certainly part of the reason why we saw it peak and then sort of slam back down. But then there's this other coin, Dogecoin, that was really just started as a joke, but because he talked about it a lot, on SNL, it totally shot up in its value. I guess the question is, how is it that one guy can throw this whole new emerging currency out of whack? And I guess that just reinforces that, this investing in these sort of currencies is not for the faint of heart.
So there's two theories on Elon Musk. One is that Elon Musk early this year said that Tesla itself, his company, is going to put a certain portion of its cash into Bitcoin, that was a sound strategy, and also that he was going to start accepting Bitcoin as payment for cars. And that potentially is a big deal. If other companies did that, that's a lot of new money moving into Bitcoin. If just 5% of the money that S&P 500 companies have, cash they have in hand, they moved into Bitcoin, that's $50 billion more going into the currency. And then they'd have to have more to facilitate these transactions. So there was a potential. People thought, okay, Elon Musk is the early adopter. Other companies are going to do it. That's more money coming into the Bitcoin market and good. The other reason that Elon Musk might be able to move Bitcoin is just they're all the Musk bros, or whatever you want to call them, the people that follow what he says. And that is more problematic for Bitcoin. And I think you're right. There's not a single company or person I could think of who would tweet and move the dollar down 40%, right? That's not possible. And again, it goes back to the fact that for a currency to be really effective and widely used, it has to be stable. And the Elon Musks and the volatility around his comments show that Bitcoin is not as stable as it probably needs to be. And certainly these other fringe currencies like Dogecoin, which, doesn't have some of the advantages of Bitcoin. It's not as limited, the amount of supply, even though you can transact maybe easier because it's a crypto and digital currency and track it. But it doesn't have the advantages. And so that kind of fell off the table and again, shows the problem with these new money markets.
So before I let you go, the rule of thumb when I worked in global finance was to advise people who really believed in the fundamentals of a particular investment vehicle that they should buy. If they loved it at a higher price and it dipped below that price, that they should continue to buy either through dollar cost averaging or to buy on the weakness, because if you believed in the long-term fundamentals of that investment vehicle, then you would be even more profitable. Does that strategy work in this case with cryptocurrencies?
Well, I think so. I agree with you, and I'll tell you my own mistake in not investing, but in writing. When Google went public, I said that it's overpriced, right? And then 10 years later, I wrote a mea culpa piece saying that you really should, when you're making investments, just like you said, you really should focus on concepts, businesses that you like, and less about price. So I agree. If you really believe in Bitcoin, no one should be putting 100% of their money in Bitcoin or 50% of their money. But if you really believe in Bitcoin, and there's a way to see whether it's working or whether it's worth the price, look at the volume of transactions. There are people out there that have done the math. You look at the volume of transactions and see if that makes sense to the value of the overall Bitcoin. That's kind of the price to earnings ratio for Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin times the amount of transactions But if you believe, and I think there's good reason to believe that this is a meaningful new technology and will be used in some fashion, then go ahead. You can put some money into it. Just don't put all your 401k into it.
So, Vlad, are you telling me I shouldn't be taking financial advice from the guy at the bodega who told me Bitcoin was going to split and I should hang on?
Or the people on Twitter who all have opinions about it.
But
Steven?
But if the guy in the bodega is going to take it and all of his bodega's friends are also going to take the Bitcoin, then maybe you should take advice from him.
Ride it with the bodega bros. I'll be riding it. Right. Diamond hands, as they say.
Yes.
Stephen Gandel, thank you very much.
Nice to be with you again.